We thought he was just another broken-hearted friend, until bodies started showing up. And what we saw under the full moon? God help us, it wasn't human. My name's Cody, and where I'm from, folks look out for each other. We're a tight-knit fishing community nestled deep in the Appalachian backwoods of West Virginia. Not much happens around here, just long days on the river hauling nets and selling fresh catch in nearby towns. But something happened last summer that tore our world apart. It started when my childhood friend Luke came back home. Luke was the kind of guy everyone liked. Quiet, kind, always had time for kids and elders. He'd been working at a factory out in Pennsylvania for the past few years, only coming home during holidays. Every Christmas he'd come back with jokes, stories, and sometimes even gifts for the local kids. We'd shoot hoops together, hike the ridges, laugh like old times. But this time, Luke wasn't laughing. He came back early that May, earlier than we expected. His girlfriend had dumped him, said she was seeing someone else back in her hometown. Luke tried to act fine, but his eyes told another story, always distant, twitchy, scanning the woods like he expected something to jump out at him. When we asked him if he was okay, he just bit his lip and said, "I just need time, man, I'm here to forget." There were 4 of us tight like brothers, me, Luke, Abel, and Jonah. We all pitched in on a small fish-selling business, hauling coolers around in a beat-up trike with a trailer Luke bought second-hand. We met her while selling fish in a small town nearby. She was stunning, kind eyes, soft voice, and a confidence that made you listen when she spoke. It was Jonah who first joked, "Hey Luke, there's your rebound right there." We all laughed, even Romina. She didn't say much, but she smiled at Luke and he smiled back. For the first time since he returned, he looked calm. Luke started disappearing some days. He said he was running errands or needed space. We didn't press. One afternoon we played basketball behind Abel's place. Luke joined in like the old days, laughing and roughhousing. Afterward we shared drinks under the orange sky, like a proper celebration. That's when Luke dropped the bomb. "I'm leaving tomorrow," he said. The next night, under a full moon, the 3 of us decided to go night clamming at the riverbanks. The tide was low, the moon bright. A bird, no, not just a bird. A massive creature soared across the sky above the river. Its wingspan could have covered a pickup truck, its feathers dark as night. The next morning we loaded our trailer and drove out to the nearby town. When we got to Romina's street, something felt off. There were people gathered outside her house, crying, praying, whispering. We pulled over. "What's going on?" Abel asked one of the women. She looked at us, eyes red, voice shaking. "Romina, she's gone. Someone did terrible things, killed her." My world slowed down. I could barely breathe. "What?" Jonah choked out. "Who? They don't know. Cops said it was brutal. Her body, it didn't look like she died easy." We stood frozen. We knew Romina. Luke liked her, and now she was gone? Luke returned to town 3 days later. We told him the news. He didn't even blink. That's too bad," he muttered. "Hope they catch whoever did it." But his voice, it was empty. His eyes stayed on the ground. I glanced at Abel. He noticed too. That night, Luke's younger sister, Tessa, brought over her friend, a sweet little girl named Ellie. She'd been visiting often lately, but now we noticed Luke watching her more, talking to her more than to Tessa. Abel pulled Luke aside. "She's just a kid, man. Be careful what you say to her." Luke glared at him. "What are you implying, huh? That I'd hurt someone?" We all felt the tension rise. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Then Ellie disappeared. We were just starting to move past what happened to Romina, at least pretending to. But when Ellie went missing, the air changed. Her guardians, Mr. and Mrs. Dominguez, showed up at our town looking for her, frantic and terrified. They said she had come to visit our friend Tessa, Luke's sister. That was normal, she often did. But this time she never returned. We didn't think much at first. Maybe she stayed the night and forgot to call. But by noon, everyone knew something was wrong. We searched the neighborhood, the lake trails, even the creek where we used to fish as kids. We were desperate. Then we found her shoe. It was wedged between jagged rocks by the bay cliffs, just below the tree line. The area was dangerous, sharp limestone, crashing waves, a place we were always told to avoid. Jonah was the first to spot it and he called us over. And that's when we saw her, Ellie. She was lying face down, half naked, her tiny body twisted unnaturally across the rocks. Her eyes were wide open, staring into the void like she'd died in fear. A gag stuffed in her mouth, blood around her ears, dried and cracked, and something else. Abel, who had stepped back in shock, suddenly stopped and looked down at the sand. He knelt, picked up a leather bracelet partially buried in the shore. We all knew that bracelet. Luke never took it off. It had his initials etched into the side. "Abel," I said, my voice trembling. "Where did you get that?" He opened his hand slowly. "Here, it was buried in the sand right next to her." My stomach turned. I didn't want to believe what my mind was screaming. I didn't want to believe our best friend could have done this. That night, the cops came and questioned us. We said what little we knew. That Ellie often visited, that she was close to Tessa, that Luke had gone out of town again, said he had some errands in the city. That was his usual excuse now. They questioned Tessa's dad too, Luke's father. He told the same story. Luke was gone, handling something important. They always said that. It was like they were covering for him, and now I was starting to see it clearly. After the police left, we stood in the yard, silent and scared. I turned to Abel. "Why didn't you show them the bracelet?" I don't know," he said, pale. I wasn't thinking straight. What if I'm wrong? What if he lost it there days ago? But even he didn't believe that. We needed answers. So we went to the only person who might understand, Old Man Darrow. Folks called him the Hermit Healer. He lived in a rundown cabin beyond the hills, far from the town's noise. He'd help people with sicknesses doctors couldn't cure. And when something felt wrong in the air, people came to him. We found him stacking wood in his yard when we arrived. He looked up, eyes squinting like he already knew why we were there. "You boys look like you've seen ghosts," he said. "Worse," I replied. "Can we talk inside?" Once inside, we laid it all out, about Romina, about Ellie, the bracelet. Darrow sat still, listening intently. Then we handed him the bracelet. He held it in both hands, closed his eyes, and murmured something under his breath. The air went still. Then Darrow opened his eyes, tears forming at the edges. "I saw it," he whispered. "I saw it all. That boy, Luke, he's not just hurting, he's infected, consumed. Something evil took hold of him. Maybe it was always there. Maybe it needed something to crack him open, but now he's become a beast in a man's skin." We froze. "Romina wasn't the first," he continued, voice heavy. "She wasn't the last either. Ellie was the third. And there's more." "What do you mean more?" Jonah asked. Darrow looked up, his face pale. "Ellie's real parents. They're not ordinary. They've kept to themselves for years. You know why? Because they're not from here. Not really. Her mother is one of the others." "You mean like—" Abel didn't even finish. "Yes," Darrow nodded. "Old blood. Something darker than man. They've stayed quiet for years, hiding. But now you've awakened them. And they're not going to wait for justice. They'll take it." The room felt colder. I rubbed my arms as goosebumps formed. "Can we stop it?" I asked. Darrow stood, slow and heavy. "No, you can't stop a storm that's already at your doorstep. And you boys, best stay quiet, because they'll come for him. And nothing, not the law, not prayers, not even the devil, can stop what's about to happen." We left the cabin shaken. That night I told my dad everything. He didn't say a word until the end. Then he simply said, "Lock the doors tonight, all of them." And we did. But even locked doors don't stop demons in human skin. Because later that night, Luke came to our house. We were all in the living room that night. Me, my parents, and my younger brother Patrick. My dad had moved the heavy cabinet in front of the front door just in case. The only lights were from a small lamp in the corner and the moonlight leaking through the blinds. It was around 9 p.m. when we heard it. A knock. Not polite, not frantic, just deliberate. Then the knock turned to banging. My dad motioned for us to stay quiet. We turned off the lamp and crouched behind the couch. Through the gap in the window shutters, I saw him. Luke. His silhouette swayed like he was drunk, but it wasn't his usual swagger. His arms twitched, his head tilted back unnaturally. In one hand, he held an axe. Old, rusted, and caked with something dark. Then he spoke. "You little rats in there think you can hide from me?" His voice was deeper than I'd ever heard, like gravel scraping the bottom of a well. "You told them. I know you did." He started laughing, loud, maniacal, echoing off the trees. My mom covered Patrick's ears. I held my breath. Luke turned toward the window, his face catching the moonlight. And it wasn't right. His eyes glowed a faint red, his jaw looked stretched, like it had unhinged slightly, and his skin, sweating, pale, almost sickly. He was transforming, or maybe he already had. "They always cry," he whispered to no one in particular. "They scream and beg and scratch, but I make them quiet. I give them peace." Then came the noise, a screech. Not from him, but from above. Something flew through the sky like a shadow. A shape, massive wings, glowing eyes, claws like iron hooks. Luke looked up too late. The thing crashed down on him, throwing him several feet across the yard. The axe tumbled from his hand. "What is that?" Patrick shouted, but Dad pulled him close, eyes locked on the window. The creature stood over Luke, towering, wings folded against its body. It had the form of a massive bird, but wrong. Its feathers shimmered like oil. Its legs resembled that of a goat's, and its face, God, its face, a twisted blend of woman and beast, unblinking eyes, snarling teeth. Luke screamed, not in rage but in terror. The creature lunged, biting into his shoulder. He fought, grabbed his axe, swung blindly. The blade caught the beast's side and it shrieked, a sound that vibrated the house. But then, as fast as it came, it grabbed him by the torso and lifted him into the sky, disappearing into the dark canopy above. Silence. For a moment we all just stared, not moving. Then came another scream from farther off, a man's scream cut short. The next morning the town buzzed with horror. 2 bodies had been found by the cliffs, Luke and his father. Their corpses were twisted and broken, mangled beyond recognition, but everyone knew. Word spread fast. Someone or something had gotten to them. What chilled us more was how they were positioned, face up, mouths gaping, just like Ellie, almost like a warning. The sheriff was baffled. He questioned all of us again, but there was nothing to say. Some fishermen came forward, though, said they'd seen a giant shadow flying over the cliffs that night. The cops didn't buy it, of course. They called it hysteria, but we knew better. Back home we were quiet. My dad boarded the windows. My mom kept the radio on all day. Abel and Jonah stopped by that afternoon. We didn't speak about what we'd seen. Then Abel pulled something from his pocket, a scrap of torn leather. "The rest of Luke's bracelet," he said quietly. "It was in our yard this morning." "Why would it be there?" Jonah asked. Abel looked up. "I think, whatever that thing is, it left it, like a sign. Or a message," I added. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Luke's last words. I had known him since we were 8. I had trusted him. The next day, the Dominguez family left town, packed up their things and vanished before sunrise. No note, no goodbye. Just gone. A week later, the police closed the cases, called them wild animal attacks. Nothing else fit, nothing that wouldn't make them sound insane. But us? We never forgot. And something tells me the creature isn't gone. It's just waiting. 2 weeks had passed since Luke and his father were found dead. The town had returned to uneasy silence. No more attacks, no more sightings, but nobody felt safe. You don't just unsee something like that. You don't just move on when a monster snatches someone off your lawn and flies into the night sky. Abel, Jonah, and I had one last visit to make. We didn't talk about it, we just knew. We went back to Darrow's cabin. The old man was waiting on his porch, a cigarette glowing in his fingers like he'd been expecting us. "So," he said, "it's over." "Is it?" I asked. He looked out toward the trees. "For now. That thing, the one that took Luke, it wasn't just punishing him, was it? It enjoyed it? That thing was grief, wrath, everything Ellie's parents couldn't say with words. Some bloodlines, old ones, don't bury their dead with prayers. They bury them with revenge. Was Ellie? Was she like them?" Darrow nodded slowly. Half-blood, I think. The good part of her was human. The dangerous part slept inside her. He wasn't possessed, boys. He chose what he did. The evil. He welcomed it in. Let it grow. All those smiles he gave you, they were a mask. A man who hides what he is for that long. When he breaks wide open. But it's done now, Darrow said. Ellie was avenged. Her parents are gone. The beast won't return unless someone calls it again. And if someone does? Abel asked. Darrow looked straight at us. Then let's hope the next monster it finds deserves it too. 3 months later. Fall came fast, leaves fell. The lake froze earlier than usual. People moved on. They always do. But I couldn't. One evening I was cleaning out Luke's old trike. We'd been using it again for selling fish like old times. The trailer still rattled like hell on gravel roads. As I cleaned, I found something wedged in the rusted tool bin under the seat. A journal. Luke's. I opened it. There were entries. Dozens of them. Some were just scribbles. Others were full paragraphs, dark, disturbing. The earliest ones talked about voices in the factory, then dreams of flying things, then taking control. One entry stopped me cold. March 17th. She said no. I asked again. She cried. I watched her leave. I followed. Something inside me said she had to learn, that she had to be silent. I didn't feel bad. I felt free. The date was just 2 weeks before Romina was killed. I kept flipping, hands shaking. Then came this. April 2nd. The girl saw. She saw everything. I should have taken care of her right then. But she's my sister. She's just a kid. She wouldn't talk. Would she? He was talking about Tessa. And then I realized Ellie wasn't the only one who was at risk. He was going to kill his own sister. I slammed the journal shut. Even in death, Luke haunted this place. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tessa. She never talked much after everything happened. Always kept to herself, even more now. Around midnight, I saw her outside, standing in the backyard under the moonlight. She was barefoot, staring into the woods. I opened the door. Tessa? She turned, and for a second, her eyes glowed, just like it did. I blinked, and it was gone. Normal eyes, normal kid. Sorry, she mumbled. Just getting air. I nodded slowly. Okay, just be careful. She smiled faintly. I always am. She turned and walked back inside, but the air stayed cold long after. Final note, Luke was taken. Justice, if you can call it that, was served, but something else was awakened. And I don't think it went back to sleep. So if you ever hear wings scraping your rooftop on a full moon, if you see glowing red eyes in the trees, if someone disappears and no one ever speaks their name again, ask yourself one thing. What did they do to deserve it? Because sometimes, the monsters we fear aren't hiding in the dark. They're the ones we already know. If this story chilled you to the bone, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to Dark Real Project for more true horror and paranormal tales brought to life. Every week, a new nightmare drops. You don't want to miss the next one. Click that bell and remember, they're always watching.